This is the all-new Mercedes-Benz GLC, and you might be thinking to yourself, it doesn't look all new to me. That's by design, because the GLC is Mercedes-Benz's most popular model globally. So why would you want to mess with the formula if it's working? Stay tuned and I'll tell you whether the formula is right for this new gen model in this review. Mercedes-Benz made the decision with this generation of GLC to just offer the 300 grade because it was the one that was selling best out of the non-AMG models last time around, so it made sense to just have one version for now until the AMG versions roll in. So it does come very well equipped. Sure, the price has gone up quite a bit. It's now more than $100,000 to get into a GLC, which seems like a lot considering the last one was quite affordable, but it does come comprehensively equipped. It gets the AMG exterior package, it gets these aluminium look running boards. You've also got 20-inch alloy wheels, LED lighting on the outside, and on the inside you'll notice that there's a fake leather interior trim. You've got heated front seats. You've also got electric adjustment for those front seats, and you get the AMG interior line package too, a panoramic sunroof, climate control, and all the stuff you would expect, including a big 11.9-inch MBUX or MBUX infotainment system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and sat-nav. And you can even get it with an optional package. There's only a couple of options available. The package includes an augmented reality view for the sat-nav system, as well as a Burmester sound system and different headlights and a different alarm system as well. This car has that pack. I don't know whether it's worth spending the money for though. Now, it is pretty comprehensively equipped. So what does that mean it's going to compete against? Well, let me tell you about its best alternatives. If you're thinking about a Mercedes-Benz GLC, there are probably a few options that you've already thought about, obvious ones, you might say. So let's round them off first. Well, there's the BMW X3. I think it's fantastic. I think it's really nice to drive. It feels really roomy on the inside and comfy too. Practical, thoughtful. There's an electric version available if that's what you want, and it's not all that expensive either. So it could be a really, really good alternative to this. Another one that you might want to consider, maybe you already have, is the Audi Q5. Now it comes available as a Q5 SUV or a Sportback. I don't like the Sportback personally. I think it looks a bit weird, but there is now a plug-in hybrid version of that SUV, and I think that could be a better fit for some people's needs because this car doesn't have a plug-in hybrid. It used to in the last generation model, but it doesn't anymore, which is strange. And let me tell you another alternative you probably should be looking at if you're thinking swoopy-ish, sporty-ish, luxury SUV with a big budget on your side. Check out the Genesis GV70. Now, it looks gorgeous, in my opinion. It feels really special on the inside. It doesn't feel like it's made from the same bits that make up Hyundai SUVs, but that's because they've put in a lot of effort to make it feel like its own brand, and it does. And it feels special too. But tell me which one you would pick, or would you pick something completely different, like a Tesla Model Y or something like that? Let me know in the comments section. If you're thinking you might have to play like a game of spot the difference between this one and the last generation GLC, I can see why, because there are some very, very obvious similarities between the design, but just keep in mind, this car is now 60 millimeters longer. It's got a 15 millimeter longer wheelbase. It sits a little bit lower as well, so it is a bigger car. Might not look bigger, but it is. All right, let's see if the boot's bigger. Hint, it is. Of course, it's a luxury SUV, so you do get an electric tailgate, and thankfully it doesn't do those annoying beeping things that so many other tailgates do. You've also got a nice cargo cover here. The boot space is not huge. It's not enormous for this size of vehicle. There are some other mid-sized luxury SUVs with bigger boot spaces, but it is bigger than the last generation model by 50 litres, and that means that you can still fit a pram and some other stuff in here pretty easily. And if you're wondering, there is a spare wheel under the boot floor. It's not a full-size spare, but it is a space saver, and that's also where you find the 12-volt battery for this car, and some tools and stuff as well. So it does have some of the practicality elements that some of its other rivals don't have, especially having a spare. Nice to see. The interior of this new generation GLC does feel like a pretty big step up from the last one. It does feel a bit more, well, complete, I guess you'd say, because the last one was nice, but this feels a lot more upmarket. There's a lot of touches that make it feel more upmarket, including this trim across the dashboard, this wood finish. I'm sure there's other optional finishes you can get if you want, but I like that. I like this topper on the dashboard as well. It's like a fake leather finish as well. You've got ambient lighting inside the vents, so when you adjust the temperature up or down, then it will adjust the lighting. So if you want it colder, it goes blue. If you want it warmer, it goes red. That's pretty neat to see. Great trick for the kids too. And it's also got this big media screen. Now, it is a very comprehensive media screen. There's a lot of technology on offer in this screen. This media screen does have menus upon menus, so there is a lot to get your head around, but thankfully it is pretty easy to comprehend. And if you're someone like me who just jumps in and puts Apple CarPlay on all the time, it's pretty simple to get your head around. Also pretty simple to get your head around are the climate controls. Thankfully, they are touchscreen. Don't love that, but at least they are pretty easy to use. So you can just adjust the fan by hitting the button there, and the temperature as well, just by adjusting up and down like so. Or if you want to, you can jump into the climate menu and adjust things that way if you need to adjust things that way, like hitting sync for the climate control to match up to each other or whatever it may be. Yeah, it's good to see, but it's not as simple as a set of buttons would be, in my opinion. So there's also a little toggle section down here below where you can jump between menus quickly. So you've got your volume here as well. You've also got your car menu. So that means you can jump in and change the settings there. You might want to jump in and turn off the active lane keeping assist. It really depends on your preferences. I've found that it's not too bad in this car, so I haven't necessarily turned it off every single time I've driven it, which is nice to see. You've also got your parking camera button there as well. Also, it can be a little bit hard at times when you're driving to make sure that you hit the Apple CarPlay button correctly, because it's up in the top corner there, and it can be a little bit difficult to get to when you're driving and you're moving around and stuff. All right, it's probably enough on the screen, but let's talk about storage in here. I love the fact that you've got this covered center console section here. Don't love that it's piano black, that's just me, but it's also got a pair of cup holders down here, wireless phone chargers, some storage there as well. If you want to sit a couple of phones in there, then you probably can. And then there's a storage bin here as well with USB-C ports too. So there's a lot of storage in this center section, which is nice to see. You've got big bottle holders in the doors as well. Of course, you get a glove box. Is it even worth looking at? It's okay. Now, when it comes to adjustability for the seats, you've got these controls on the doors. If you've never experienced that in a Mercedes before, it does take a little bit of getting used to. I keep going for the phantom controls down underneath or on the side here, but they're up there and they're pretty easy to get to terms with. Also, reasonably easy to get to terms with is the digital instrument display for the driver. As you can see, it's on accessories mode at the moment, but there's a lot of illumination there, a lot of color, and a lot of information as well. What I'm not so hot on are the controls on the steering wheel. So there's some haptic controls, like for the volume, for instance, you slide your finger on it. Cruise control, you can slide up and down on that. But if you happen to fidget a little bit while you're driving, or you just maybe talk a lot with your hands while you're driving, talking on the phone or talking to whoever's in the car with you, you might notice that you hit those buttons a lot more regularly than you otherwise would if they were actual buttons. If they weren't haptic, they wouldn't be annoying, but they are haptic, and I find them a bit annoying. Do you have one of these cars? Do you have a car that has haptic steering wheel buttons? Let me know if you hate them too. All right, let's jump in the back seat. It is a bit bigger, this new gen GLC, and it does feel a bit more roomy in the back row. So I'm 6 foot or 182 centimeters. This seat is set for my driving position. I've got plenty of room in front of my knees, fair amount of foot room too, and lots of headroom. And you can fit 3 adults across. There is a bit of a transmission tunnel intrusion to contend with. But the seat back is really hard, so it might not be the most comfortable experience. If you have bigger kids or adults that you take with you everywhere, they might not love how uncomfy this seat is. It's really hard. But if you have younger kids with child seats, we've got ISO fixed points in the window seats and 3 top tethers, as you would expect, and they will be happy with the fact that they've got directional air vents, but won't be happy with the fact that there's no USB-C ports or USB-A ports back here. Guess they'll have to hijack those ones in that front center console bin. Now, there are storage options available, including a pair of map pockets. You get bottle holders in the doors, but strangely enough, you don't get cup holders, you just get this weird little device tray thing. Unless I'm not able to figure out why that won't pop out and be cup holders. But either way, not amazing. But if you need extra storage from the boot, you can fold this down and use it as a ski port. Just make sure you don't have things flying through to the front, because no one wants to smash their screen with their skis. So does the 300 in GLC 300 mean anything? Well, it doesn't mean it's got 300 kilowatts, but it does have a fair amount of power and torque, this vehicle. So it's got a 2-litre 4-cylinder petrol engine, it's turbocharged, and it's backed up by a 48-volt mild hybrid system, which uses a little battery pack and helps you get an electric push every now and then, and also uses regen braking to feed energy back into that battery pack. So it is pretty efficient. I'll tell you about that after we do some driving. But you need to know that it comes as standard with a 9-speed automatic transmission and all-wheel drive standard too, which is nice to see. Now, what's it like to drive? So what is the GLC 300 like to drive? Good. Yeah, it's good. It's pretty nice to live with. In fact, I've had it for a week and I've found that it is pretty enjoyable. I don't love the way it drives, but I also think that it does live up to what is expected of a Mercedes GLC. That is that it's pretty cushy, pretty comfy. The steering's nice and light and the engine is pretty responsive. So if that's all you need to know, cool. See you in the next one. But if there is more detail you'd like, I'm going to tell you some stuff about this 48-volt mild hybrid system and also the suspension. So if you're unaware, a 48-volt mild hybrid system works kind of like a hybrid, regular hybrid, but it does have some differences. It's not as usable in terms of using electric mode, but it will essentially cut the engine when you're slowing to come to a standstill, and then when you start to take off, you can use electric power to do that from a standstill, which is good to see. It also allows you a little bit of electric boost every now and then. So if you really plant the throttle, then you do get a bit of an extra push from that electric motor that's integrated into the 48-volt mild hybrid system. Now it uses regenerative braking to feed the battery pack, so the brake pedal feel does take a little bit of getting used to, and so does the interactivity of that 48-volt mild hybrid system at lower speeds. It isn't like a normal car, so it will take some getting used to, but I'm sure if you head into a dealership and take one for a test drive, you'll be able to have it explained to you in more detail. All right, so what about the rest of the drive experience? Well, I think this engine's pretty good. It's got a fair amount of power and torque, and when you really do need it, there's good grunt available to you. The auto transmission is also really good. I think it does a really smooth and clever job most of the time. I reckon the steering's nice and light. It's got a decent amount of feel to it as well. Look, it's got pretty grippy tires, so it does hang on nicely in corners. The steering's just a little bit light, and obviously there are different drive modes you can select if you want to adjust it, but just in normal mode it's light, and that's good for parking, but maybe not as enjoyable as it could be if that's what you're looking for. But hey, there's AMG models of this car coming soon, so you best be waiting for those. All right, and let's also talk about the suspension. Well, this time around, Mercedes-Benz has offered the comfort suspension, and it's just a steel spring setup. There's no adaptive dampers, there's no air suspension, so it is a basic setup, but it's comfy. It just feels a bit wobbly, and that's been a criticism that I've had of a lot of Mercedes-Benz products over the years, that just at times it just sort of feels like you're sort of wiggling around in your seat a little bit when you're changing directions at lower speeds, or maybe encountering different levels on a road or something like that, driving into a driveway. You sort of just feel like you're doing a bit of this one. And it's not the most pleasant feeling in my mind, but a lot of people say that they find it fine. Cool, okay. This car also has a really good surround view camera system, which makes parking a bit of a breeze. I'll show you some footage of that now. And also, one other thing, if you are wondering, it still has the steering column mounted stalk for your gear selecting. So if you're not used to that, it can take some getting used to. On your screen now, you'll see the official combined cycle fuel consumption figure for the GLC 300 grade. And that's what you should be able to achieve across a mix of different driving scenarios, so high speed, low speed, that sort of stuff. If you're wondering what I've seen over a week of driving this particular GLC 300, you'll see that on your screen now. Yes, that's higher than the claim. I'm not surprised. And also, it just sort of gives you an indication of the fact that this 48 volt mild hybrid tech does make sense to a degree, but I do a lot more open road driving, so maybe it doesn't work as well if you are that sort of person who has to do lots of long distance drives. So just keep that in mind. As you would expect, the Mercedes GLC comes with the maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating, and it does come loaded with plenty of safety technology as standard, including autonomous emergency braking, adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, and a bunch of airbags, including front center and driver's knee airbag coverage. So yep, it does have plenty of safety tech, as a $100,000 Mercedes should. Mercedes-Benz was one of the first luxury brands in Australia to offer a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, and that remains the case now, so that's nice to see. Plus you get 5 years of roadside assist included with this vehicle, and the servicing, well, service intervals are every 12 months or 25,000 kilometres. I'm not sure whether I'd be letting my Mercedes get to 25,000 Ks before it had a service, but you do you. When it comes to service costs, you'll see the service pack pricing on your screen now. That's for 3 years of servicing, but it seems pretty good. If you are going to do a lot of Ks, maybe you do a lot of commuting, this could be a really, well, kind of affordable luxury SUV to own. The Mercedes-Benz GLC 300 4Matic is a fantastic luxury SUV for those who have 100 grand to play with. For those who don't, there are some really good alternatives. But if you think that this is right for you and you've got the money to spend, take it for a drive. I reckon you'll be impressed, and I reckon you'll be, well, overwhelmed with some of the technology available in this car, because there is a lot to like when it comes to the Tech Fest. Tell me what you think though. Is technology equivalent to luxury, or is luxury a different thing altogether? I'd love to hear your thoughts, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe and hit like and share this video with anyone who you think might be looking for a GLC or might just be looking for really good car reviews by me. Thanks, see ya.